stand and say the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to declare an open meeting?
I'll second it.
Here you go. All right. Second, open meeting, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Notification of the Open Meetings Act is posted on the door in the back of the room. Roll call, number 5, myself, yes, Mike.
Here.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Chance.
Yep.
Melissa.
Here.
And Deb. Okay, number 6, approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Move on to the consent agenda. Start with the minutes from last month. Questions on the minutes, we can move on to the financial report. Anybody got any questions on the financials? If not, then we'll move on to the claims for this month. That large one, the facility advocates, was that at elementary or was that?
Yeah, that's been a few that we've been holding for the past couple of months. Still expecting or asking about some insurance claims that didn't come through on a couple of them. That also includes payment 3 of preventive maintenance or service maintenance.
It's like 6 different invoices.
So that was a variety of invoices that I've held for a couple of months, so it was time to just pay them all. So it was multiple service projects or service and maintenance agreement.
You're happy with the job that they've done?
Yes, we are. I mean, we did that, as you know, and we kind of talked about this, we did merge all of our HVAC maintenance under one. So you haven't had a Rasmussen bill in months and months. So all of it's been going to facility advocates, which, we, as we talked about months ago, we feel it's best to have the same people working both sides of the street. It's not exactly the same language, the HVAC units on this building compared to those, the cassettes that we have, the individual classroom cassettes, but it's pretty similar. So good to have the same people work on them month after month, year after year. They did install most of them. A lot of folks at Facility Advocates work for Train. When Train did install the elementary units many years ago. So all of our air quality is taken care of by Facility Advocates, whether it's maintenance not covered by the maintenance agreement, or whether it's the maintenance agreement, which is somewhat expensive, we have millions of dollars in that, and so our maintenance agreement's gonna be, somewhat pricey to manage and maintain them. But those are months of, and I should have maybe, we could have paid some of those as far back almost as last summer, but I held on to them to make sure that we didn't have a claim potentially. We had a surge, we had a low power surge many months ago, and thought that maybe that was the cause of one of the issues of an expensive fix that we had across the street. So we just held on to them, but several were past due. We just paid them.
So was the stump removal up here by the,
Yeah.
where the trees at?
Yeah, just east of the old red shed, so helping a neighbor a little bit, but it's also good to get stuff. We drive, the coach comes back around that, behind the ag shop, as you know, now. We take a pretty good swing, so we thought we'd just better get rid of those.
You haven't hit the new shelter yet with the bus driving through there?
No, it was wise to be patient, spend an extra $1,000 or $2 to go with a little wider, a little higher.
Any other questions, comments on claims? If not, then we'll need a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda's consent agenda as stated.
I'll second that.
Move the second to accept the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 8, celebration of excellence.
No report this month?
Nothing. Number 9, we got public comment. Anybody want to speak tonight?
We would like to.
Okay, I'll say my spiel here. Okay, we're now at the portion of our agenda set aside for public comment. Each person wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board president and must stand and state your name. You have up to 5 minutes to speak and only one opportunity to do so. Please remember this meeting of the Plainview Public Board of Education is held in public, and comments or conduct that are lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, threatening, or hostile will not be tolerated. Be further advised there is no legal protection over any comments that are made. Public comments are an opportunity for patrons to express their concern or support for school business. Public comments not an opportunity for open dialogue with the board while in open session. Board members will listen and take comments under advisement, will not respond to questions or comments. Patrons are encouraged to follow board policy if they have a concern about personnel or school operations.
Okay, I'm Beth Martins. This is my husband Curtis and our daughter Cadence, who's a junior. She asked if she could come. She wanted to join us for this. We're wanting to talk to you in regards to our volleyball program. With Kim Miller as our head volleyball coach, we feel we've exhausted all of the procedures so far. Cadence approached Kim Miller herself 4 times privately. We also held a meeting just this past week with Mrs. Miller, Mrs. Getzinger, and Mr. Schmidt was in attendance as well. Overall, we're very concerned for the girls. Not just the girls currently in high school, but the girls forthcoming. Our program is not at all where it should be. I have a lot of our personal concerns here, as well as other parents who have reached out. Many are scared to speak up in person because of fear of repercussions on their child. So we agreed that we would add some of their comments as well. To preface a little bit, we're not coming just as parents. We've been the high school coaches. I coached high school girls basketball in Wausau. Curtis was high school high school boys basketball, high school boys football. We've coached 5-year-old baseball all the way through 14 all at one time. Football, basketball, volleyball, we've done every youth sport. I'm a volleyball official. Curtis does volleyball and basketball. We have for over 12 years. So we've seen every aspect of it. We have 5 children. So I don't come in here just as the parent upset with the way things have gone. We've seen it all. Sorry, I had to take notes because I knew I wouldn't remember everything. At the beginning of the season, Cadence was benched, which we didn't know why. She didn't know why. That was on a Thursday. She had to approach the coach on a Saturday to find out. She had no idea what happened. She got pulled out of the game. Nothing was ever said. The coach claims that she pulled Cadence into the locker room. However, Cadence searched the whole school looking for her. When the coach saw her, she asked if she was looking for her. Cadence said yes. She took her in to talk to her, said, "I'm surprised you didn't come talk to me sooner." To me as an adult and as a coach, again, we've been there, we've done that. I would never wait for a player to come talk to me, a student, an athlete. If I knew there was an issue or a concern, I would address it right out. I mean, something should have been said immediately. I know there's other girls on the team that have had the same issue with no explanation. The skills coaching there's a serious lack thereof. If any of you go to any matches, not just ours, but all throughout, it's not there in any way, shape, or form. Our girls last year that made it to district finals made it solely on athleticism. Had they had the fundamentals and the skill coaching to go with it, they could have been state champs very easily. And our daughter, I shouldn't say she wasn't a part of it. She was on the team, but she wasn't part of that same 6 or 8. And they could have gone so much further. And our girls this year, it could have been the same way had we had that fundamental and skills coaching that all girls should have. The rapport on the team or with coaches, or coach, I should say, I want to leave Mrs. Getzinger out of this, is not there. She's very unapproachable. I, for one, knowing our daughter, was very proud of the fact that she, on her own accord, went to the coach 4 times, because I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time going to her myself because she is very unapproachable. It makes it very hard for a student or an athlete to feel comfortable saying anything. Most teams, all teams improve throughout the season. Ours seemed to just continually get worse. And again, anybody that was there would see that. We had countless other officials, coaches that we officiate all the time, reach out to us asking what is going on with your program. Like, they're in disbelief at where we are. Hearing other fans comment, they felt bad for our girls. There's so many times during matches where our district final, for example, our last 2 sets, we lose by 13 points. And during that time, not one change was made. I'm not saying it was our daughter that needed to be put in, but there are 6 girls on that bench and nobody was put in. Nothing was done to try something different. When we asked the coach about it last week, she was confident in how she handled the situation, wouldn't have changed it, said she felt she had the girls on the floor to make it happen, was hopeful that things would turn around. But nothing was done, and it was that way the whole season. And again, we're not expecting Cadence specifically to be the one to be put in, but nothing is ever done to try something different.
Yeah, we're at 5 minutes. I'm gonna give you maybe a minute or 2 to wrap up.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it. The decisions that were made during the game were very obviously not performance-based. There's a lot of girls, I shouldn't say a lot, there are some girls considering not going out next year if she's still the coach. There's already girls that are not going out or have not been playing because she is the coach. Cadence is not doing basketball without Kelly Lingenfelter in there as an assistant coach. Trying to think, what else? I guess it kind of said it all. I hope you take it into consideration. We feel bad for the girls and the program in general. It's not where it should be. I felt awful going to those matches, sitting there during those games, and there's nothing being done. Nothing being done for them. A girl would come out of the game, get pulled out for doing something wrong, but nothing was addressed to that girl to explain to her what she did wrong or what she should be improving on. Again, from a coach's standpoint, and I know Miller told us over and over she would not take coaching advice from us, which I'm not saying that that's what she needs to do, but she needs to be a little bit more open-minded to hearing people out, I think, showing where our program's at right now. So I thank you for letting us talk, for letting me talk.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Is it all right if we sneak out? Sorry, she just got home from SCCLA and has homework.
Yep, that's okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you for coming.
Any other speakers tonight? Okay, if not, we'll move on into discussion items. Starting with number 10, committee reports. We got the Americanism review. You guys talk about?
Talked about the books that they've been using over the years, many years. Seems like, they're looking into possibly replacing them with something a little modern, updated. So, say they're just getting started on that, started looking at some stuff, so it'll be a process.
And the elementary history books, they'd like to have them be a little bit more hands-on, with different approaches to learning, instead of just reading it and writing down the keywords and things like that. And the high school history, psychology, and sociology books just need to be updated. You don't have a time frame of how long you've had these?
How long we've had them?
Yes.
Oh,
Over a decade.
yeah.
That one, probably 2 days. That one I seen a girl that graduated in 2004 is naming it. So that's 20 years ago. That book's been here for at least that long.
Oftentimes, you know, social studies doesn't make the cycle as often because they're, you know, people's mindset is, well, we're talking about history, that hasn't
Yeah,
changed,
that's
right? What, we can use the same doggone book to teach Roman Empire or US history. But obviously your teaching materials and resources come with, you know, more modern methods of, you know, instruction, delivery of instruction, and so on. So they shouldn't be overlooked. Oftentimes they are. Part of the LB 399, which created the American Civics Committee, is designed to make sure we do just that, which is not overlook it, you know, and have twice a year, have your board meet, inspect materials, and have a report essentially from your building administrators. Accountability, a little bit of an accountability issue, but most of the time that's just a kind of a procedural thing, but it's still worthy.
And then they also have 2 new days to educate children on, in October, on missing persons and how to not be one. And in May, Dump Next Day. Which in May, we won't always have that school day. It's May 19th.
Might be out.
Yeah, this year we'll have it, but not every year.
Okay,
That's it.
sounds good. Thank you, guys. Move on to number 11, the facilities report. What's going on there?
Okay, we've had day one, scheduled 2 days for Bob Sukup from CWP, who the board authorized to conduct a facility audit. He's been here 3 days now. On Friday, did his first day of interviews of stakeholders, campus stakeholders, so this would be our staff. Just gathering data from folks that live here, I say live here in quotes, right? Folks that work here and live here that know the facilities better than anybody, and what's good, what works, where we have some shortcomings, and where we're maybe not modern, and they and our students and our process deserves better. So he's just gathering all that information. He'll be back this Wednesday. So he spent Friday in the elementary school. For convenience for the elementary teachers, the whole campus can visit him. We set up an opportunity for teachers to sign up for a 5, 10, or 15-minute visit individually or as groups. But he'll be in this building for convenience on Wednesday. So I've let our teachers know we want 100% participation in that. It's just, we want you to be invested in that, and we want to be able to say that every one of our staff members, particularly our teachers, shared with our facility auditor, who's gathering data to share with the public. And that'll be a big part of that report in the spring. So that's an ongoing process, not limited to once he's done Wednesday. I don't think he's gonna start compiling the final report after Wednesday. I think he'll be back to listen to you and stakeholders before he puts that whole document together. So big data gathering and listening sessions still continue. Do we have an update on Winter Street? Okay, I've seen some dudes down there that look like they're doing some survey work, so I think that we contributed to the engineering of that. I think that's ongoing. It sure appeared to be so from my layperson's eye in the last week. folks down there looking at the land and gathering some information, so we'll certainly keep you updated on that process, and ideally, hopefully, you'll have a decision to make on whether to move forward on Lincoln Street paving and water disbursement I hope early in the next year, so potentially a summer project, but the city is obviously kind of managing that process.
Okay, thanks for that update. We're on to number 12, review policies. We've got 508, 03, 4, 5, and 6.
Okay, just continuing with some review. A lot of these have to do with health. So, maybe I should invite Nurse Beth to be here, of course she was here last month. I can't imagine we could be served any better by a wellness school nurse. I mean, that's part of the expenses we pay to the ESU every month, and money well spent. So 50803 about communicable or infectious diseases, most of it bound in statute. No recommendations or suggestions or mandates for any language change with regard to 50803. Let's see, go all the way to 6. Yes. And that we did have that update. You know, COVID changed this a little bit. So your 50803E1 list, you know, has quite an extensive list of a lot of things you've never heard of, some of which maybe you have. So we're bound by that by statute. And then the regulations that follow in 50803, so that's a little bit more of an extensive one. 50804, student illness or injury at school. This has probably been handled the same way for decades. You know, back in the day, most schools had most particular rural schools, and we were fortunate enough to have a full-time nurse 5 days a week. We do 2 days a week. But by extension, of course, the administrative assistants, the secretaries in each building are nurses. Generally, Band-Aids, a thermometer, ice pack, phone calls home. That's 90% of what we deal with regard to illness or injury at school. Anybody that observes any particular injury, you know, we have documentation of that, we have a report of that. Haven't had any issues to give us concern about the procedure or the policy with regard to illness or injury.
Does that carry over into sports? Like ball games, if somebody gets hurt during a game, is this all the same?
By extension, technically, yes. So somebody could have a claim if it's an athletic event. Of course, we offer, families have an opportunity to get insurance,
right,
not just for athletics, but injury at school. A little bit like, well, I don't say AFLAC, but that would probably be wrong, but our student assurance services, we push those out a few times a year, you know, where families have an opportunity to buy that extended insurance. But
You don't have to log reports or anything as coaches?
we do not. We're not required to log or report that. It's just best practice if you do. Emergency plans and drills, quite simple. It tells us how often we need to have fire drills. Monthly, tornado drills annually. Every school does it, and maybe you'd like to say that's the reason that we haven't had a student die in fire since 1958 in any school in America, because we have fire drills. Sometimes it seems like a waste of time, but it's just a monthly procedural thing, lasts a few minutes in each building. Kyle and Jen manage that generally with Gail. Been doing it for generations, right? And of course, there's a few more things that have come up in the past few decades with regard to safety protocols. Kyle and Jen do a great job of managing those as well. The things that we do for lockdowns, lockouts, holds, the new language that we have for our EOP, or Emergency Operation Procedures. We ended the year last year with an emergency evacuation and reunification drill. Makes the state happy. It's also wise to do. We feel we're prepared if it hits the fan, right? But you never know. We've planned, so nobody can say that we didn't think it through and have drills with regard to the most extreme emergencies that we could face. Speaking of insurance, then student insurance. So obviously, individual families' insurance is going to cover most of their activity in school, certainly involved in extracurricular activities. School's always liable. So if something ever happens and somebody wants to sue, the school will always be a claimant in that. That's just the way it is. And you just try to minimize risk, and you move forward. It doesn't stop you from participating or offering opportunities for kids to participate outside of school. So nothing new from statute or from our legal counsel with regard to any of these 4 policies.
Okay. Straightforward here.
Yeah, those are easy ones.
Move on into number 13, board development, which is page 96, 101.
Yeah, a little bit of language on the board's role in employment matters. I like, the first line is certainly valuable. Good for every board member to know. The board hires and evaluates only one employee, and that is me. Even though it seems a little strange, of course, we ask you to approve and affirm recommendations for teacher contracts. So in a sense, I mean, that does send the message that you hire teachers. I'm not gonna squabble over whether you do or not, that's your business for sure, but legally, technically, you hire and evaluate just one employee. You certainly evaluate, and that's the superintendent. Obviously, as well as the third paragraph, and this is a good thing to be reminded of, with regard to personnel matters and due process. Personnel matters should not come to the board unless there's a need for procedural due process. It doesn't mean that you aren't aware of concerns of the public and don't hear our public with regard to any personnel matters. But taking a position on a personal matter is something you're highly advised to reserve and allow administration to deal with that. Because if it continues, if there's a personal matter that is, continues to go up the chain of command, you have to be objective decision makers potentially. And if you were to, weigh in on a personal matter prior to it being a due process decision that you need to make, is there some legal wrangling that may or may not interfere? But if it's a personal matter that comes all the way to you that's not superintendent related, there probably could be some entanglement. So your position is best to be neutral with regard to every personal matter other than superintendent. That's advice of counsel. You'll decide how you want to decide, but advice of counsel would be to stay neutral on those. The rest has to do with, and starting on page 97, that's all obsolete because we have new classifications, right? So I was able to confirm, and I might have mentioned last month, not sure what classification we're in. The population of our school district is 2,066, and that makes us a class 2 school. We had previously been a class 3 school, but you can flush that whole classification. We are a class 2 school, which means class 1 school is less than 1,500. Class 2 schools 1,500 to 5,000, which is going to encompass a majority of the school districts in Nebraska. Class 3 is 5,000 to 200,000. So those are going to be your class C1s, and if we're thinking athletic classifications, your C1s and Bs. Class 4 is LPS, class 5 is OPS. So we're a class 2. This was established again primarily when they were debating the concealed carry or the carry, authorizing a public school official to be authorized and trained to have firearm on campus. But they thought, well, we're gonna put them in these new classifications to help us determine seriously rural, sort of rural, not very rural, Lincoln and Omaha. So they may use those classifications to help them making other decisions about, this doesn't apply to the whole state of Nebraska, it only applies to these different classifications, which is a good idea. Because not one size fits all in Nebraska. We don't want OPS ideas mandating what we do in Plainview. But if they say this is good for class 2s, we can maybe swallow that mandate just a little bit better. So those are just a couple of my thoughts with regard to those pages.
I have a question.
Yes.
Second paragraph, page 96.
Mhm.
Principals are contracted employees,
Yes,
but also considered certificated, and therefore they receive tenure after 3 years.
yes.
Kind of, it's conflicting, right?
A little bit. Superintendents don't receive tenure, but principals do.
Yeah.
So there's a distinct difference between, and this is by design by the legislature, distinct difference between a superintendent and principals and everybody below. So a superintendent is not offered the benefit of tenure, essentially, but principals on down, certificated employees are. I don't know the rationale for that, Wyatt. I mean, it's a good
I
question
mean,
again.
we offer our principals contracts technically every year. And
Yes.
based on your, review of them or whatever, anyway. But if we would not, anyway, they're tenured.
Correct.
We're still gonna be employed by the district, so. we
Just a higher standard, same standard for principals as for teachers. Once they receive tenure, it's just a higher standard to, you can't just say, well, we're,
Right.
a superintendent, you can say, we wanna go in a different direction. That would not cut it for principals.
Mhm. Okay.
Typically, you know before 3 years if you have an administrator.
If they work out or not.
If it's work or not.
Okay,
Pretty much know before 3 years.
okay.
And the superintendent can sign up to a 3-year.
Yeah, I knew that, but it's
Principal.
just, it's a little, it's just a little confusing anyway,
It is.
because, principals are contracted to be at their tenure, so if you didn't really,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
I
had a problem.
When I first started teaching
That's it.
there, it was a problem,
So,
so
yeah.
we eliminated it.
I'm not insinuating
Yeah.
anything.
No worries.
See you guys.
Like to keep the fear out there.
Well, they both got 3 years, so it's a little, a little higher
I'm
standard
stuck with
again.
them anyway,
But,
so.
But you don't have to give them a salary.
Yeah.
Get you a salary.
Okay, any other questions then? Get on to the action items, starting with number 14. Discuss and take possible action accepting a bid from Tidwell for classroom phone intercom system not to exceed $10,975.
Yeah, so, the language in an action item right there, doesn't necessarily tell the whole story about what you may be getting for $10,975 for probably a few years. This has been a cliche, back burner item. I think it's fair to say. For a campus-wide, the fact that we're 2 buildings, even though we're only separated by 50 feet, it does create a distinct separation between elementary and 7-12. And you can operate the way we've operated for years, and many schools do. The state and the safety division has certainly, encouraged schools to find a way to make sure that you have campus-wide communication, campus-wide instant communication. Which we don't. We can't talk to both buildings simultaneously with one voice, particularly with regard maybe to safety measures, which would be the primary reason. So this has been a bit of a, okay, we probably need to find a better way to do a couple of things with regard to communication. So, this kind of moved up the priority list a little bit. In the past year, particularly 6 months, we've maybe pieced together what we think would be a solution. So there are a variety of platforms, variety of communication platforms that exist now that maybe didn't a generation ago, that can take you from communication to your classroom, same communication to your laptop, same communication to your cell phone, 24/7. We have a few different things that we put together that have kind of jigsawed that together. So you're all aware, we have SportsU, we have Remind, we have Power School, those ways to do those things, and that maybe suits us satisfactorily. You know, that'll be your decision. The issue here is Plainview has, to a great degree, the advantage of having a local telephone company, local communications company, that provides some of these services. So moving forward with this would replace some of the services that we currently get from Plainview Telephone. And that makes it not an easy decision, you know, to say the least. So there are some platforms that Plainview Telephone can't provide that this solution would. But I you know, I'm not your decision to determine whether that's necessary. Tom's kind of our point man on this. I mean, he's the professional on this. I mean, he's the expert on this, and so he's kind of been, you know, our lead guy on talking with these folks and helping to interpret some of the language and how this would work and his role in piecing it together, because he has a significant role. We communicated with Grant, went and met with Grant at Plainview Telephone, obviously, because this would change our relationship to a certain degree. So we're trying to think that through, and is there a role for both this proposal and Plainview Telephone to help us with this solution? Be honest with you, I'm not 100% confident that I want you to consider this proposal tonight.
I would definitely like to have more information from both parties.
Yeah.
Before we make any decision.
Yeah.
Can I speak?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, Darren sent me an email 2 weeks ago, probably, about this and wanted to get together on it because this is the first we had heard. And there's nothing wrong with that. I wish, and he was the first to acknowledge we probably should have had this conversation a long time ago. We just weren't part of it. The system that's here now is an IP office. It's an Avaya IP office. It's been here 10 years, but we've done upgrades. This is the same system I would be putting in all the networks today. I have hospitals, ethanol plants, banks. The school, when we originally did this, I dug out my notes from when we originally put this in 10 years ago. The intentions were, by the request of the school, is to keep the schools separate. That way you had separate communications in that school and separate communications in this school. There's actually only one phone system, and it sits in the Tartan Gym under the bleachers. So there's actually only one system. It's not a separate system. By design of the button programming is how we have it separated. We installed, when the smart boards went in, I don't remember how many years ago that's been, in the elementary, 5, 6?
Yeah,
7.
5 years ago, probably.
We installed all IP phones, same smartphones basically they're talking about here in the elementary. And for the most part, we've got IP phones in all the rooms over there, right?
In the elementary.
In the elementary, not
Yes.
here. We didn't do it here because the junior high building wasn't wired. There were several rooms in the school here, in the high school part, that weren't wired. I think that's changed now, correct?
Yeah.
So they're all wired, we could go to IP phones. These phones, this system's fully capable. We were here beginning of the school year because the intercom system in the elementary school crashed. We're asked to come up and work on the intercom, which wasn't really our expertise. we tied it into the phone system. The actual phone system that's under there has a wire between the schools. There's connectivity, there's fiber between the schools. So now the intercom over there actually does an all-call over the intercom system, just like the old archaic microphone in the principal's office here. Over there, it's a button, it's a one-call button, it's a page all. Push page all, and it comes across. That's how you do your morning announcements, correct?
Mhm.
Does it work?
Mhm.
So we could, and we've never had the request of, this is what we'd like to do, what are the possibilities, what can we do with the current system? If you wanted to have that, we could have that, that's a programming change. We could do an all-call button, and I watched last month's meeting, the video of it, and that was one of the things that was brought up and definitely in emergency situations, something happening in here, you need to have a button that you can push and tell everybody to lock it down. You don't have that now. We can program that tomorrow. I mean, that's a button change. It just was never requested. So that's one of the things I looked at, and we met Thursday. We went over a lot of this, so this is kind of old news to these guys, but I thought I'd update you. This IP office, some of the features that we're looking at with the Zoom, and what this quote right here is nothing more than phones. This doesn't include the month-to-month service. So on top of this, you'll have the service from Zoom, and there's no quote with that. So I think you all probably are aware how much that is a month. Really some of the benefits of doing what it is, and Tom and I talked about, and when Dr. Harrell were there, we talked about is there's some definite benefits if you've got some employees, or Kyle, for example, or Dr. Harrell, that if they want to leave, they've got a practice, or he's expecting a call, or you have a meeting, there's a hot desk feature. We have the hospital employees do. We've got an ethanol plant employee that does it. That basically it's a one push button on their phone that the secretary would transfer a call to their office just like they were sitting there. It turns around, forwards it to their cell phone. There's some things like that we're doing with it now. There's some advanced features with some of the cloud-based stuff. It really is for a call center. I'm not sure how much a teacher's really going to use it, to be honest with you. That's some of the things with it. The other thing you've got to be careful with, and what we're talking about, is basically doing away, there's a port, they call it, and what it does is it takes our phone number, that 402-582 phone number that we own, and it ports it out to the cloud, which is a server in an unknown room someplace in the country. Don't get me wrong, you do cloud storage, stuff like that. We don't necessarily host Lifeline services to it. But at that point, if you're doing something like that, it's all dependent on the internet. If your internet connection goes down, you just lost all incoming and outgoing calls, you lost all your 911 capabilities. Don't get me wrong, that's not a scare tactic. Everybody here has a cell phone in their pocket, right? So that's a situation. There's some technical things we talked about with these guys. Probably can't talk about because of security stuff, but I know one of the questions was brought up about NICOM not having the internet at the school last month. It's our internet. We bid, it's a bid, if we're your bid, goes out every 4 years. We bid it under a different name. We partner with other providers. We partnered with Nebraska Link as a statewide network. We had the service up here for 8 years. We didn't have it the last 4 years, and now we picked it up this summer again under a name of Stealth, where we bid that because we can pick up multiple towns. If they start seeing Plainview Telephone Company bidding in whatever town, they won't like it. So we'll go under a different name. We'll partner with a bigger provider. We're not necessarily the internet provider. What it is the school or the state has its own internet connection for all the schools. We provide a pipe, a backbone, a garden hose of internet, let's say, back to the state network. So we're there now. So if it goes down, something maybe went wrong on my side. So I'm not necessarily knocking the internet side of things, but you're putting a lot into it. You know, something happens on the internet and there is an emergency in town or something like that, you've got a bunch of mom and dads trying to call to get their kids, and they're getting all circuits busy, or they can't get into the school. Things are gonna get interesting. So I don't know, there's a lot of things we can do without getting too technical. There's a lot of this stuff that we can do we're not doing it now because the demand's not there, but the current system that you have, they're bidding or quoting 50 phones. You have probably, what, 30 licenses up here now, so you need 20 more phones?
Yeah, I think we need like 50, to replace everything, I think I had 55 phones or
Okay.
something like that.
So 20 phones is really what, 20 to 25 phones that you're looking at. Honestly, don't quote me because I haven't looked at the prices this month, but instead of buying $10,900 worth of phones, you'd be buying $300 or $3,500 worth of phones. Is a big one. That would be going through us if we just added on to this existing system, which is definitely, we could be doing a lot of this stuff now, we just didn't know it was there, about like the overhead announcements. We don't deal with the intercom. We could do the exact same thing with the high school that we're doing with the elementary school now with the one button. All of the announcements, instead of doing separate announcements in the elementary school and then separate announcements in the high school, we could be doing it all with a single button in the morning out of one office. That could be done with a $500 amp. So when all the stuff in that office would come out.
Yeah, daily announcements wouldn't so much be,
But it's the
you know,
emergency
an
stuff.
interest, but it would be not generally emergency.
Emergency stuff, yeah. Did I understand right that you can't call from classroom to classroom or anything like that?
You can.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, in elementary they can. They can't over here because they don't have phones. no.
Okay.
But yes,
But if they
class,
do
there's
have
extensions they can call class.
Okay.
I don't know if
I
they
didn't
know how
quite
to, but they
understand that.
can.
Yeah.
but it's,
We just don't have saturation, particularly in this building.
okay, yeah, just because the way, honestly, it was an
Yeah.
older building, it didn't have the
Yeah.
Cat 5
Decision
wiring.
was made about the old building, which is part of our
Yeah.
whole future vision
Yeah.
discussion.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, we could bring, honestly, tomorrow,
Yeah.
I could have you a box of phones to put in junior high by the end of the week.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to sell a lesser product or anything like that. I think the conversation just needs to be had. And I'm not gonna lie to you, if it's something that we can't do, I'm not gonna say yes,
Yeah.
because that's not gonna work for anybody. But I would like to at least have a shot on it.
Yeah.
Because we had a good meeting the other day. I mean, we really did sit down and talked
Yeah.
about it, so. But I think
Yeah,
it's,
I agree.
there's a lot of unknown stuff. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
the system sitting here, the way it's programmed, it's in basic mode. There's an advanced mode and basic mode. It was basic mode because back in the day, classrooms didn't have phones. All you needed was a phone to call one place or another, and everything got ran through the secretaries. Now you can set it up that individual classrooms, you know, Kyle might have an individual number from an outside line, you know, on and on and on. Different departments would have different lines. We can do that now with DID drones.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of possibilities and capabilities there. And I'm gonna be honest, it's not about the money, I think. It's about probably $6,000 or $7,000 a year. So that's not a make or break for anybody. But it's just, I kinda take it personal when we're up here and we're working on it. And my share of the stealth connection, I give away because the last 4 years drove me nuts, not knowing that I didn't have the contract for the school. So I'm not taking anything for providing fiber from here to Neely. So it's just, we take it serious. I take my $6,000 and buy T-shirts every couple of years for the kids and the staff. Is Kidwell gonna do that? So, we provide free football, or free internet to the football field for the huddle cam. We don't charge a dime for it, it's just there. I mean, we always had a good partnership, so I don't like to see it go away. I mean, if it's something, if we're providing bad service or something like that, or I can't do it, yeah, I'm better for the school, better for the community, right? But I wanna at least have a shot at it. There's a lot of details to figure out between now and then.
Yep, I would say, it's probably fair to say that Tom and I will probably visit with Grant a little more precisely, between now and next month, or even potentially January, at your request. And, help you to make a fully informed decision about what we think we need, whether that can be provided by Plainview Telephone. If it can't, is it necessary? If it is, I mean, that, again, obviously, that's your decision to make moving forward.
Are we getting ahead of ourselves here with the talk of expansion, remodel and all
Yeah.
that? Is there stuff that you'll do that will get tore back out again if we do any major remodeling?
Yeah,
Are we throwing our money away, or should we be waiting
Yeah.
deciding whether we're
There's-
gonna do that or not.
What we're talking about now is just features, honestly. If we start getting into some more advanced, what do we wanna call it, unified communications, and start buying licenses so teachers can be bringing their laptops home and doing some things like that, you might be getting the cart before the horse a little bit. But what we're talking about now is literally buying some phones and maybe a cheaper license to get those phones active for a junior high. Honestly, if that building's removed and tore down, those phones are gonna move to someplace else and the license is already paid for. This isn't a recurring charging, this is just, that you guys own the system, once it's there, it's there.
And some of this, the phones in the high school is becoming to fix a security issue because of our antiquated intercom system that we have. As of right now, that's the only way for Tammy to communicate with classrooms. And we're starting to have some speakers not work. We're starting to have, they have microphones in the speakers, some microphones not work. Some buttons for the teachers to call to the office are not working anymore. So there's some classrooms that unless they pull out their personal cell phone, there's no way for them to communicate with the office. So this phone system would be a quick and easy, and compared to replacing the intercom system, a fairly cheap way to fix that issue quickly. Yes.
And it's gotten, and I guess in my opinion, it's gotten a lot more important having a phone in a teacher's room, because you never know what's gonna happen. If there's a fight in a classroom or something like that, you got somebody that can run over to a desk and push a button and get help. That's really what it comes down to, as opposed to running over to an intercom system that probably was put in the 50s and trying to push it on.
Pretty archaic.
And that's being said, I mean, that's not included in Kidwell's, that's a whole separate side of this, it's just one of the stepping stones. Same thing being said about mine. I mentioned to him the other day, I mean, if you guys are looking at completely changing all the clocks and everything like that, I don't have enough manpower to be up here pulling wire and stuff like that. That is a whole separate expertise, honestly. But it's not included in this, and it's not included in any of the zone stuff, or the Zoom stuff anyway. It's just,
So we've got a phase 2 proposal for you to consider in the next month or two with regard to our clock, bell, PA system. That's, yeah, much more significant than this, but that's something to consider later. So let's, continue to think and research a little bit, and I'll keep you posted and potentially have an action item for you to consider next month.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, if there's a way, we can do this, get what we're looking for through local here, that should be.
Yeah, there'll just be a few platforms that wouldn't be, available, that we may decide is just not necessary.
Did we know the cost of the Zoom phones, monthly price?
Yeah, I know it.
What that'd be yearly? I don't remember what that was.
It's $96 a license for a year per user, and that includes unlimited calling, long distance and local, in the United States. So you would,
55 phones. And that's on 55.
yeah, so the phones would be a one-time purchase. You just buy those, and then you have to put a license on them every year to work. So it would be more of on the lines of like a cell phone type plan instead of a long distance carrier where you pay by the minute and stuff like that. It's gonna be, you're just paying a set rate every year, and then you get unlimited. And that puts a license on that phone, and then that phone gets unlimited calling, text, to local long distance just in the United States.
monthly service per phone is about 15.
Mm-hmm.
Monthly service on each phone is about $15.
That license is everything
So that's $96 for how long?
for a year.
So you're only gonna pay $96 for a year for Zoom?
Per user.
Per user.
Per user, okay.
$5,500 for 55 phones for a year.
Pretty flat there.
That'd
And
Quick math.
And
it wouldn't be, one thing I guess we weren't talking about, we didn't think about the other day, but I pulled up your bill and I was looking at some of the stuff. You guys are, the long distance thing isn't as big a deal as it used to be, honestly, anymore. I think you're paying between $80 and $100 total for all your lines for long distance, and it still keeps it less, you know, what it would be on a bill for this. But you're not gonna be able to necessarily lose all your lines with it. So what you're paying per month in $500 to $600 a month, you're still gonna have 2 fax lines, because fax won't run over the IP. So you're gonna have to maintain, unless you disconnect your fax. I don't know how many faxes you get. If you could go to one, you could save some money, honestly, something like that, because faxes aren't as big of a deal as they used to be. But my point is you wouldn't necessarily disconnect all your lines with us. You couldn't do it because of the fax. And then you have a bus barn line, which, yeah, so you.
It'd be kinda nice to see a comparison between the two. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think we can do our best to create apples to apples for you.
Yeah,
Sounds
and I
good.
honestly, I don't have anything to hide. I mean,
No, thanks for
they're
being.
pretty upfront about it. I mean, we had a good conversation, so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Good advice,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Okay, we'll push that on down the line, go to number 15, discuss and take possible action approving purchase of a new server, not to exceed 8,500.
Should be quick and easy. Tom did discuss this with you late summer, early fall. So this is just the right time to go ahead and do it, and this is still good price, $8,500, right?
Yeah,
So we're 7 or 8 years into this server.
8, I think this is 8 on the
plus
current
it. If
server.
you think it's 8, it's probably really 10. Anyway, yeah, we gotta have the best server to continue to provide the increased amount of service that we're asking of it.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid by Broadberry in the amount of 8,500 for purchase of a new server.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, then to accept the bid for a new server, $8,500. Myself, yes. Deb?
Yes.
Melissa? Chance?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, we'll move on then to our report section, starting with activities director.
Fall seasons are wrapped up, so volleyball was district runner-up again, so that was 2 years in a row. Football finished on Friday in the quarterfinals. Tomorrow is the conference local clinic, and that is in Summerlin, correct? Yes, in Summerlin. I did get a hold of Osmond about bowling and being able to participate in their alley. The pricing would be the same as what it would be here, but we'd be able to have practices and host events there, so we're able to go to Osmond and have everything same price as what we had here in Plainview. Winter sports kickoff is a week from Friday. They have 6:45 is when the meal's gonna be, and then 7 o'clock our one act performs, and then right after that we go into the auction part and introductions and all that good stuff, so that's next Friday. Conditioning week started today. Winter sports practices all start officially on Monday of next week, so winter season is here.
When is the sports kickoff, did you say?
The 22nd November, next Friday,
Okay.
6:45.
Congrats on a successful football and volleyball season.
Thank you.
I think it was my fault, Kyle. It's the first game I've watched all year. Feel bad.
You've been excommunicated.
You must have started watching about the second quarter then.
I started watching it with like 8 minutes left in the game, I think.
Oh,
That's how I
thanks.
watch all my college football too. I like to, right down to the
We get up 24 to 8 and then you start watching and everything blows
Yeah,
up.
I apologize. Bad luck.
I'm gonna go instead of team principals report then.
The one thing that I just wanted to highlight is the A-class classification report in there. I don't know if you went through and looked at the fine print in the back, the report that Dr. Arles included, but he had asked me to reach out to the department and inquire about how we got the different ratings that we did in our buildings, even though they are all good, which he was surprised when I reached out to him. He's like, I was wondering why you called me, because your ratings are good. And I said, well, we just wanna know what we need to do to get better. And, so I just kind of gave you a few bullet points, but the overall, theme that I heard him say time and time again was the things that we are doing, which our ultimate goal is to have all students be at grade level, and what do we need to do to make them be proficient when we do our testing. Those things are being done. It just comes down to 1 or 2 students at most in our buildings that maybe weren't proficient in reading or math, because the proficiency is a large part of this equation. It's not the primary part, but we have very few students that really affect the overall picture. And so just knowing that the number of kids who are not proficient keeps going down more and more, that's our goal, and that's what we're doing. So, if you go through and look at the specific details for each building, it's a matter of 5% or less would change our rating number up or down. So like I said, overall, he was very pleased with everything that our report showed. He just encouraged us to keep working hard, because what we're doing is making a difference.
I thought the scores were great.
Mhm.
Nice job.
We have to report once a year on financial literacy too, so that's why that part's in there. At the end of this school year, all of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors will have taken personal finance and met that state statute requirement, which is also a grad requirement for us, so. We moved it to sophomore year, so they get it a year earlier, so that's why all of our sophomores and juniors have to take it this year, so.
Nice job on both of the A+. That's a big job.
Mhm.
And they don't give those scores lightly.
Was this the rating system that had the needs improvement?
Yes.
That's the same thing.
Yes.
You know, a few years ago, it was.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It can fluctuate somewhat wildly just due to our small sample size, but it's, I appreciate, you know, Brandon taking the time to call the Department of Ed, who, they got 244 districts. They probably don't wanna hear from somebody who has good, excellent, and great ratings, you know, but I said, I wanna know what, you know, can they identify what moved us up? And because we certainly wanna know why did we move down? And, you know, sometimes it's things that's out of your control, which they would say it's not out of your control for, attendance rates, chronic absenteeism. That's within our control to get kids to school. Maybe debatable, but that's a significant factor that can adjust you one way or another. So Jen spent some quality time talking to the Department of Ed on helping us to analyze and interpret. AQuest may go away. Wouldn't be surprised if this is the last year or next year. New commissioner. They may look for a different classification system, but it's, and we've had it for about a decade now. So quite honestly, it's, you know, usually you don't have things that last 10 years. So it is good, gives some trend data or whatever, but anyway.
And this is all information that was released to us. It'll be out to the public at the end of the month.
So did he stutter when you asked for specifics?
Did what?
Did he stutter when you asked for specifics?
No, he just says, I wondered why your school was on my list of
Yeah.
contacts.
Good for you.
Okay, is that all you guys have?
Mhm.
Thank you. We'll move on to the president's report. I just wanted to congratulate Chance, Justin, and Caden, and new elected board members. I look forward to working with you guys for the next couple of years. Appreciate your willing to serve. And also at the same time, we'll express thanks to our algorithm, you know, Mike and Deb. You know, there's a lot of experience here, and Deb's got a unique perspective with the teachers, so thank you guys for the years that you served here too, so.
Is this when we do have to come next month?
Still gotta come here next month.
One more.
Give you gold watch, though.
Gold watch, okay, I won't do that.
But, there is a December 2nd, that's a Monday night, right?
Yes.
New board member workshop, so if that works for you, Justin and Katie, I think Katie said he would go today. wasn't able to be here tonight. And then, new board members are also welcome to state conference, so if that happens to work for you the next week or something, you're welcome to go. We'll get you a room or get you registered, so think about it. If you wanna go for 1 day or 2 days or the whole time, you're welcome to go. That's all I have, so. Go on to Mandy, the superintendent.
Okay, just some other compliance confirmations for you. The audit is done, the AFR supported the NDE. That's always a good thing to get confirmation from the NDE. Your audit's been, your audit and AFR are completed and we have no changes. Kelly and I usually do the happy dance when we get that.
Is it more Kelly than you?
Oh, for sure, 100%. You know, so she works that baby pretty well, and the auditor, after our audit, between the actual on-site audit and the confirmation of the AFR from the NDE, there's a whole lot of work that goes on and tweaks, and Kelly has to change some things, and they're asking for something, and we're working on SPED reports as well, so ESU, but it's a process. There must not be enough auditors to go around in the state of Nebraska, because we'll hear from the NDE and they'll send us the nasty-gram. Your audit is due November 1st, it's due November 1st, due November 1st, due November 1st. Well, we're waiting for our auditor, you know, to give us the information to upload that. So because they're doing multiple schools. Anyway, it's done. I should have that for you next month for sure, your copy of the audit. The assurance statement is done. Kyle and Jen take care of that. That assures our accreditation, Rule 10 accreditation. Again, state conference, I have Tim and Mike coming in Wednesday night, that's why you have an asterisk. Deb and Melissa are scheduled to go to the pre-conference, so I'll be visiting with you obviously about, you know, travel arrangements, rooms and comfort and information numbers, all that has been taken care of. So that is week from Wednesday. And as you know, maybe you don't know, but Wyatt Dorr is on the Student Voices panel. So I think there's a total of 6, maybe 6 or only 8 students statewide that are in that Student Voices panel. And so he is representing those that are going into service to country, high school senior going into service to country. So very excited, very proud that the NASB chose his nomination and chose him to represent, Plainview Public Schools and public education on the Student Voices panel. That's Thursday at the state conference, and he'll be here to report next month. Next month. If you look right behind you, you can't see us through the screen. That's our new employee, Nick. That's our nighttime custodian 2.0. We had 1.0 last month, didn't work. This 2.0, we feel real good about it. So Gail spent a couple of days working, training, talking through duties, years of experience as custodian, moving to town, bringing a family to town. So certainly an answer to a prayer on that.
Did that come through your advertising, through the radio?
Yes, yes, so by second word of mouth, right? So if somebody said, hey, I heard you're moving to Plainview, I heard there, you know, and bingo. So we want to be able to say when we pay that bill, it paid off. I did check with Madison County, probably gonna ask you, well, it's in the budget, CD, $100,000 CD with Madison County. So 12-month is 3.8, 6-month is 4.3. Again, 12-month, 3.8, 6-month, 4.3. It's just, and it's a roll of the dice, right? Whether you want to go with the higher rate, shorter term. But probably going to go ahead, I'll visit with Kelly, we'll look at financials. We've had a couple of good months. This was a slow month, but still pretty good for revenue. This is the slow time until we get to January. So we'll get a spike in property tax revenue at that time, but probably want to reinvest half of what we took 4 years ago out of Madison County, but I'll keep you informed on that. Enrollment summary is there, meetings out of district, vacation, sick balance, for your information. And that is all I have.
Okay, well, we've got a superintendent evaluation to do. You do that in closed session, so we need a motion to.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session to do the superintendent evaluation and file it.
Tom.
Second?
Tom.
I'll second that.
Okay, Melissa?
Yeah.
Wyatt?
Yep.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I gotta shut that up.
Just a moment, hold on, let me know. Okay.